Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about all the books that I've rated as 5 stars according to GoodReads, which it might be interesting because I only seriously started reading, I only seriously started using GoodReads about 3 years ago, back when I got back into reading. And I did try to update it as much as possible according to like the books that I remembered reading and what I rated it. But since as a kid I read a lot, you know, I don't remember a lot of the books. You just read them and you don't remember them. So I can't say for sure I remembered all the books and I added all the books that I definitely read. But I did definitely catalog all the books that I've read since 2020. But I was just curious to see whether or not I have a lot of 5-star reads. Honestly, I don't think I have that many, just because I'm coming to terms with the fact that I'm a very picky reader, especially as I read more romance books. I just have come to realize that I'm very, very picky. So yeah, in general, I guess before we even reveal some of the books that, I mean, they're books and graphic novels and comics, so it's a good mix of stuff. I would say before we even get into it, some of the things that I would classify as a 5-star read is just good vibes, good writing, and just overall great time. And I don't know, certain genres I'm a little bit more picky than others. Like for example, with comics or graphic novels, if the art is really, really good, but the storyline of it is not that great, I might give it a higher rating versus something that doesn't have art that's appealing to me. Story is number one most important thing, as well as characters. If I vibe with the characters and I vibe with the story, then that's very, very important. And then a 5-star read will have the trifecta of good story, good plot, and good writing. When I say good writing, it doesn't necessarily have to be like award-winning, best writing that the world has ever seen. It does not have to be that way personally for me, but it just has to speak to me. It just has to make me feel things, and it has to make me feel drawn in and compelled to read more. You know, I have to be addicted to the writing and the story and the characters for me to really want to give it a 5-star read. You know? With that being said, I might prove myself wrong as we go through this list, but hopefully I don't, because that's what I think of, at least when it comes to 5-star reads. And I think that's why it's been very hard for me, especially lately, for me to find more 5-star reads. Maybe I'm not reading the right genre of books, maybe I'm not reading the right authors or what, but it's been hard. It's been rough for me lately, and I desperately want to read more 5-star reads, but I just haven't been finding them lately, and it's tough. I feel like the longer you read without reading a 5-star, the more likely you'll go into a slump. And I'm not in a slump. I feel like I'm doing pretty good actually lately with reading. But if I continue on this track, I could easily see myself going into a slump, because it'll be like a big, like, what's the point if I'm not reading 5-star books? You know? So I don't know if that makes any sense, but it makes sense to me. So I guess that's all that matters. I don't know. Anyways, we're gonna just get started. I see the first book on this list is book number 1 for Scott Pilgrim's, what is the full title of this? Which is called Precious Little Life, Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Life. Scott Pilgrim is one of my favorite series of all time. The art is pretty good, as well as the story, and it's just, in my opinion, it's pretty innovative with the storytelling, and it just, everything about it was so good. I loved it. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. I love this series so much. I also have Young Avengers Volume 2 Family Matters. I'm gonna be very honest with you guys. I don't remember what this is about. Oh, okay. So Young Avengers is, how do I say? Young Avengers is basically like all the, not sidekicks, but like the proteges of the main Avengers, like Kate Bishop to Hawkeye, and I mean, not all of them are like that, but it's basically another subset of group. Like, they're the youths of the Avengers. They're young people in high school that have powers, and they are usually, some of them are proteges of the Avengers, and they have formed this group because none of the older people are taking them seriously. And also too, some of them disappeared. If I'm remembering this series correctly, some of them disappeared. They're trying to get the Avengers back, and they're also fighting this threat, which is King the Conqueror, and it's like this whole thing. And in volume 2, I believe that's when things really picked up with this. We really got to know what was happening with King, and also the Hulkling, and yeah, just all of them. It just really tied in together, if I remember correctly, and it was a really good volume, so that's why it's rated as a 5-star. Is it bad that I don't remember this 5-star? Maybe, but you know, it is what it is. So we also have Letters to a Young Poet, which I covered in my Andrew Garfield video actually, and I really liked it. I really believe that I read that book at the right time. If you're a creative, I think you should read it. From one creative to another, it's such a good read for creatives, especially if you're dealing with a lot of burnout. If you're dealing with creative burnout and even like imposter syndrome, I would say this is a very good read for creatives. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that. Runaways, the complete volume collection, Runaways, the complete collection, volume 1. Runaways, honestly, I feel like Runaways is very slept on. It's a very good series. They don't really talk about it much when people talk about Marvel comics and Marvel runs and Marvel groups. It's very slept on, but it's a great series. Story-wise, it's very well-rounded, and I highly recommend for anybody that's wanting to get into comics, especially Marvel comics. I would say the Runaways is a good segue into it, just because they don't have to be tied to any other Marvel character or run, and they are a very good standalone series. I also have The Lightning Thief, which is the first book out of the Percy Jackson series, and 2020 was actually the first time I've ever read this series, and I really enjoyed it. I'm actually thinking about rereading the series because I think I stopped at like the 3rd book. Yeah, I read up until the 3rd book, and then I just kind of dropped off. I don't know why, because I think there's only like 4 books. No, there's 6 books. There's 6 books, and I got halfway through. So I think I should continue reading the series, but I honestly don't remember much of what happened in the 2nd and 3rd book, so I think I had to reread it completely. I believe it's middle grade, and it's a nice series that is super easy to get into, and it reignited my love for Greek gods and goddesses. So yeah, highly recommend. Kick-Ass, which is also a graphic novel. Loved it. I would also say Kick-Ass is a great graphic novel to get into if you're trying to get into graphic novels. It's very comprehensive. It's basically about vigilantes and superheroes, but like they're not really superheroes sort of vibes, you know? I really liked it. It's very gory, I would say. So if you're not into that, maybe don't get into it. But if you are into superheroes and crime fighting and that sort of vibe, and you want to get into graphic novels, Kick-Ass is also another great way to get into graphic novels for sure. There's also The Alchemist, which I forget why I started reading it, but I genuinely enjoyed it. I would say for any creative out there, you should definitely read it. It's basically a story about how a kid wants to become an alchemist and his journey to getting there. It's definitely literary fiction, so if you're not into that vibe, then you won't be into this book for sure. But yeah, I definitely needed to read this at the time that I read it, and it was, I wouldn't say it was transformational, but it definitely did change my outlook on creative things and my creative perspective, you know? So that was very useful, and it definitely it reignited my creativity during that time, which was very much needed. I also read Avengers: The Children's Crusade. I think I own that physically, actually. It follows Wanda and her kids, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, it follows Wanda and her kids are trying to find her. So that was great. I loved it. I love any story with Wanda because Wanda's great. And I love Wiccan and I love Speed. And what more can you ask for? If you're a Wanda fan, this is a great read. I don't know. I loved it. There's also Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. And I read this because it was trending on TikTok. Like, this was really trending on TikTok. Like 2020 and 2021. I gave into the hype and I understood it. And I really liked it. Some people say that it's overrated, and I would say that maybe the book is just not for you. I really liked it. I mean, it was great. It was like, I want to say it was like more on the literary fiction side, but it follows 2 kids, 2 high schoolers named Aristotle and Dante, and it just unfolds their relationship, their friendship, as well as their eventual romantic relationship, and it was great. In my brain, it read more like a A24 movie, and I think that's why I liked it, because I genuinely enjoy A24 movies, so you know. There's also Saga Volume 1, which is also in Saga Book 1, which I both rated 5 stars. If there's one thing you need to know about me, it's that I love Saga. Some of the volumes are not the best, but Saga. I love Saga. Saga is, I would have to say Saga is my all-time favorite graphic novel series. It's a bold statement. I don't know about now lately. I haven't been really caught up on it, but books 1 through 3, chef's kiss. It was, everything about it was so good. I'm very sad about something that happens in it. If you know, you know, but it was great. It was great. I really hope one day they make this like an animated series because I would eat it up so much. I love it. I love it. Anyways, there's also Hawkeye Volume 4, Rio Bravo. Yeah, this was the last volume in this run, and I just really felt like they encapsulated everything. It was just very well rounded. It ended really well, and I just really like the Matt Fraction run of Hawkeye. It is one of my all-time favorite comic runs, and I think it shows because I rated it a 5-star. So, highly recommend. I would also say too, the Matt Fraction run of Hawkeye, if you are just getting into Marvel, it's also a great run to start with. So if you are into that, if you want to get into it, then I would also recommend Hawkeye. You don't really need to know much about the Marvel universe in order to get it. Crooked Kingdom. I still think about this book from time to time. I read this back in 2021 and Crooked Kingdom broke me. That ending, Lee Bardugo, I still need to owe you my therapy bill because what was that? Why did you have to hurt us like that? What? And I don't even know if they're gonna have a third book. Because it's always been rumored that she's gonna have a third Six of Crows book, but I don't think so. I think she ended Crooked Kingdom in the best possible way, but also in a very painful way. Miles Morales, The Ultimate Spider-Man Book 1. Need I say more? Personally, I don't like the Ultimate Spider-Man runs, but I did like this. It was a great intro to Miles Morales and his origin story, so I mean, no complaints. I genuinely love all things Spider-Man, so this really comes at no surprise for me, which is funny because the next one under it is Silk, issue number 1 for the 2015 run. Need I say more? Silk is very highly underrated. I love her to pieces. She is my profile picture and will always be my profile picture. Do I one day want to play her? Yeah, but we will talk about that when the strike is over. I'm just kidding. Kidding, but not kidding. Unless we also have Starfish. Starfish is the book that I recommend to everybody. I have a copy that I still need to annotate, but once I annotate it, I will loan that out like no other because Starfish made me feel so seen. And I just remember I borrowed it from the library. I stayed up reading this book and then crying too. Started reading it at like 6 and I finished reading it at 5 a.m. Wait, actually, did I start it at 6? I think I started it later because no way it took me that long to read. Maybe I started it at like 8 or something like that. And I finished it at like 5 in the morning. I definitely remember finishing it like when it was super early in the morning and the sun was coming out. So if you guys don't know, Starfish is about a half Japanese girl and she is struggling with social anxiety and a narcissistic mother, and it's just her dealing with that on top of pursuing her dreams to go to art school, all the emotions that come with that. It's just so beautifully written and I just cannot recommend it any more than I already do. It's so great. If you haven't read it, I would highly recommend. There's also Life in Parts by Bryan Cranston, which is his memoir. Yeah, it's his memoir, and as a actor, I would say that this is a very good read and it gives a lot of insight into his life and just nuggets that he's shared, that he's learned along the way, and I just really appreciated it. He's a great actor. I respect him, and I respect him so much more after reading this book. So yeah, if you're an actor, you're trying to pursue acting, I would definitely recommend reading his memoir. There's also The White Book. This is a Korean book that was translated and I read the translated version. I don't even know how to describe things. It just talks about like the color white in ways that you wouldn't really think about, and it was a very unique experience. It was like poetry and short stories, and it was great. It was a great experience. I personally read it because RM really liked it from BTS, but I highly recommend. It was great. There was also Moon Knight Volume 3, Birth and Death. I honestly don't really remember what this volume is about. I have good confidence that I would still rate this a 5-star. Moon Knight is so graphically unique compared to other comics, and I just love the story of Moon Knight. Very, what's the word? Like, it's just so good. Everything about it is just so good, you know? I just don't remember what this one was about. Honestly, I really don't remember. It had to have been good for me to rate it that. Oh, I think this is the volume. I don't know about you guys, but I have sensory issues when it comes to itchy clothes. So I had to change. I believe this volume is about going more in depth about Steven's DID and just uncovering that and how that impacts Moon Knight. Not Steven. Yeah, Steven. Steven and Mark. It goes into depth about Mark and his DID and how that impacts Moon Knight and how that impacts his alters and Moon Knight and everything like that. It was a really interesting volume, and just Moon Knight in general does a really good job at capturing the uniqueness beyond just like the superhero parts of Marvel, and they do a deeper dive on things. And I don't know, like Moon Knight does it in a way that's so visually appealing and unique, and I just really appreciate Moon Knight in general, especially in the more recent years where they kind of revitalized and gave more context to Moon Knight, more than just like he's a moon person and he fights werewolves and stuff, you know? So yeah, it was really interesting to see that, so I definitely see why I gave that a 5 stars. There's also the Poppy War, which I will talk about the Poppy War till I'm blue in the face. The Poppy War is such an underrated book series, and the Poppy War, I would have to say, broke me. Yeah, like I remember I could not read these books back to back because these books are so heavy, because they are set in a historical time and it's about gods and it's like fantasy, but historical fantasy, and it's just a lot of things happening and it's very heavy, very intense, but they're so good. R.F. Kuang literally just, she does a phenomenal job writing these books, and it's just, this series is the reason why R.F. Kuang is my insta-buy author. She's one of my insta-buy authors. I love everything that she writes. She is so good, and she just writes it to be so compelling, and that's saying a lot because I don't like historical books like that. I really don't, but she just does it in a way that makes me wanna like it, and I just like, I literally looked up fan edits. Like I literally looked up fan edits after I finished the series because it was so good. The Unbelievable Gwenpool, number 17. I'm not quite sure why number 17. I think that was the ending. Actually, I think I'm starting to remember this. It had to have been like the last issue or something like that. But the way they rounded out the Gwenpool series, I really liked. I mean, the Gwenpool series in general, I really liked. I feel like it's a very unique series, and they usually do a good job with Gwenpool. There was also The Vision, which it was great. I mean, guys, I mean, you're gonna hear this about all of them, but The Vision was great. It follows Vision and his life living in the suburb, but this is like post Wanda. Like, him and Wanda break up and he gets together with his wife Virginia, and they have kids Viv and Vin, and they're all sentient beings like Vision, and it's just, it follows their life. Viv and Vin, their life in high school, and just navigating normalcy in that, and it was good. There's also Rogue and Gambit Ring of Fire. If you're a Rogue and Gambit girly, if you're a Gambit girly in general, you're gonna love the series. I love Rogue and Gambit so much. They're so cute together. Everything about them is just, love them so much. So yeah, of course I'm gonna give them a 5-star when it's literally when they have their own like side book with just them. Of course I'm gonna like it. Of course I'm gonna give that a 5-star. There's also Daisy Jones and the Six. I actually originally gave it a 4-star when I first read it, and when I reread it, which I have a video about, but when I reread that, I actually bumped it up to a 5-star because rereading that book, especially as a audiobook, It was great. I think the second time around, it made me pick up on things. Yeah, it made me pick up on things that I didn't pick up on the first time around, which is why I bumped it up to a 5-star. I mean, I do have some gripes with the book. I'm not saying it's the perfect book, but it was very enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. It was like, it felt like a real band. And I think that's why I loved it so much. I really love books that go into like the industry side, behind the scenes side of the music industry. I don't know, something about it. I just love it so much. So of course I'm gonna love this book. It's just meant to be, you know? Wow, I actually have a lot more than I thought I did. There's also The Magic Fish, which is a graphic novel. I'm really starting to notice that a lot of these are graphic novels, which it is what it is because I like graphic novels. Sue me. I don't know. Graphic novels just tell stories in a different way, and I'm a visual person, so I feel like, of course, if I'm a visual person, I'm gonna like graphic novels more. Is that a crime? No. Not saying any of you guys said that, but I feel like graphic novels definitely get, not demonized, but a lot of people look down on people who read a lot of graphic novels and count that towards their reading goals. If that's you, that sounds like a personal problem. Anyway, there's also Ace of Spades, which is a YA book, and it's like Gossip Girl meets Get Out sort of vibe. I genuinely had a great time reading this book. Loved every moment of it. It was a super quick read. I loved it. It was great. There's also Heartstopper Volume 4. I need to know when Volume 5 actually is going to come out. Let me look this up. There's only going to be 6 volumes, so only 2 more. That's crazy. So it's supposed to come out December. Wait, hold on. It's coming out December 7th, 2023. Apparently. And then the 6th one is the final one. What? That's crazy. Oh my god. I really love Heartstopper. Heartstopper is such a great graphic novel. I'm gonna be so sad when this series ends, but Heartstopper Volume 4, it was very hard-hitting. It made me feel things, and I just, if you know, you know, because Volume 4 was great. Oh my god. I'm so sad it's gonna end in 2 volumes. But I'm excited we're getting another one in December, so there is that. There's Beach Read, which Beach Read was the first Emily Henry book I read, and I haven't stopped ever since. But I really liked Beach Read. Beach Read was very unexpected for me. No, it wasn't that unexpected actually. Beach Read was a great time. I genuinely love Beach Read. It was a lot harder hitting than I thought, but it was great. It was great. I loved it. I don't know, what can I tell you? I really loved Beach Read. And then right after that, it's People We Meet on Vacation, which I didn't like it as much as Beach Read, but I did still like it. And I really liked the banter that they had. And I mean, honestly, in general, Emily Henry's books, the banter, the dialogue is always the best part. She is so witty, and I just literally love her writing style so much. So much. There's also The Heart Principle by Helen Huang, which I need Helen to write another book. Personally, I need her to write another book, and I need to read it as soon as possible because I've only read The Heart Principle and Love Quotient, but The Heart Principle, literally Quan, from what I remember, Quan is the standard. He was great. He was everything and more, and I kind of want to reread this book now. I kind of do. There's also Crying in H Mart, which, come on. Am I a little bit biased because I am Korean American and heavily relate to this? Yes. But this book has introduced me to Michelle and her music, and that is priceless, and that deserves way more than just 5 stars. So she's gonna get 5 stars, and also a lot of streaming on her songs. But yeah, it was great. It was a great memoir. Michelle is a great writer. I have nothing but great things to say about this book. Okay, so there's also The Burning God. This is the last book in the Poppy Warriors series, and if you know, you know, because this was literally my review on the book. I literally said, RF Kwang, I'll be sending you a bill to my therapy session because what? What business did she have writing that ending? I mean, it was a great ending, don't get me wrong, but I was in pain. I think that book sent me in a slump for a little bit because it was that good. Yeah, it was that good. Wow. Yeah. If you guys have not read the Poppy Warrior series, I You need to. Don't sleep on this series. It was so good. There's also Know My Name by Chanel Miller. It's a memoir based on Chanel's experience with her case against Brock and the justice system and her going through that. It was really insightful. It was really well written, and I have nothing but great things to say about this book. Yeah, like I would recommend anybody to read this book. It was so good. It's like one of the best memoirs I've ever read in my life. There's also The Vanishing Half, which is about twin sisters that grow up separately, I believe. But it is about like generations of this family and how like being white passing impacts them and like their struggle and how that impacts like the history of like what they experience in this town and whatnot. And it was really, really good. There's also Counting Down with You, which is a YA romance book, and it's basically fake dating. I don't remember why they were fake dating, but they were fake dating, and it was just, it's like To All the Boys series, but like it's different, but it was just as addicting. And I also stayed up reading this book, and it made me feel things. It kind of felt like I don't even know how to explain this. It gave me like K-drama, but like not K-drama vibes. Early 2000s teen rom-com sort of vibes. Like it gave me all of that, but in the best possible way. It just made me feel things, guys. I loved it. I loved it. Oof. It was such a great debut novel for Tashi. Like it was so good. There's also Harleen, which it's a comic book. It's like an entire book though, not just the one issue. It's like the entire volume of Harleen, and it talks about Harleen and how she became Harleen and everything like that. Love that. I love Harley Quinn, so of course I'm gonna love this book. Are we surprised here? We also have Strange Academy First Class, which is basically about Stephen Strange's academy that he sets up so that he can teach magic and all of that stuff to mystical beings and kids with magic and whatever. And I loved it. I mean, it was a great time. It was all vibes. Truly, it was all vibes. There's Lore Olympus Volume 1 and 2. The art is great. I love the story. Are we surprised here? It's so good. I actually never read the webtoons when this was like live on Webtoons. Like I didn't know anything going into it, but I loved every moment of it. And the art, again, the art is so good. If the graphic novels have good art, I'm already sold. You already got me. So these last two ones are more recent, which is kind of crazy that literally within 2 years, I've only had 2 new 5-star reads, which is nuts. It's crazy, guys. This actually makes me very sad that this is a reality of my life, because all the things I've listed so far, they've been read within 2020 or 2021, and these last 2 ones are this past year. So the first one is The Ballad of Never After. Are we surprised here? Because I love that book. Literally, I love that book. I love Jax. I love Evangeline. They're so cute together. Ah! Do I have a whole Pinterest board dedicated to them? Yes, I do, okay? But they're so cute. I am impatiently waiting for the 3rd one to come out this year, because I just need to know what happens after this point. But I love that book so much. I really wish I could reread this for the first time. Like, I love that book so much. Ah. And then there's Happy Place by Emily Henry. Are we surprised here? Yeah, I made a whole video on it. Like, I won't stop reading until I get a 5-star, which you can find here. Emily Henry will most likely do it for a 5-star. I love Emily Henry, as you can tell from the other books that have shown up here, and genuinely love her writing so much. So Happy Place was great, and I feel like she did such a great job at making this more than just a romance book. It has more than just romance components to it, so you know it was good when she makes me like second chance romance, and I generally don't like second chance romance. So I do want to do some honorable mentions because they're 4.5 and they are very, very close to a 5. But some honorable mentions are Loki, Agent of Asgard, the complete collection. So that whole series was great. Chef's Kiss. Felix Ever After, which I love that book. That book was great. It was very close to a 5, but I really liked it. The last 4.5 is The Love Hypothesis. I've said this time and time again. I do not care if people don't like Ali Hazelwood and her writing, because I do. I always have a great time reading her books. I don't care if it's Raylo fan fiction, because if it works, you know? Great vibe. Yeah. I mean, she's so funny when she writes these women in STEM books. I mean, in general, I feel like her writing would just be witty and she is just probably a funny person, but sue me for liking Ali Hazelwood. I don't know. You can go fight with a brick wall for that, for that, because I like her books. Okay? I can always rely on her books to have a great time. So it is what it is. Anyways, those are all the books that I've rated 5 stars according to GoodReads. I am really hoping to get more under my belt, because it is a shame that there's only 2 for this year, and it makes me sad that that potentially might stay like that. But I will continue to read. Obviously, I will continue to read more books, and hopefully I will find it. If not, I will cry. JK, but not really. But that's it. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books, if you like them, if you didn't like them. If you guys have any book recommendations too on what you think might fit and be in line with my 5-star reads, I would love to hear them. And yeah, that's it, guys. Bye.